Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I have to tell you, today's topic has been sitting on my desk for a few days, and every time I looked at the title of the research packet, I felt this weird mix of dread and curiosity.
I get that.
We are tackling something that feels heavy. It feels, inevitable for a lot of people. But according to the research we have in front of us today, specifically from Dr. Emily Hartwell, that inevitability is a myth.
It is.
We are talking about falling.
It's the F word of aging, isn't it? Falls. This is the thing nobody wants to discuss until it happens.
Exactly. And we are looking at a statistic here that is, it's honestly terrifying.
Yeah.
Nearly 1 out of every 3 adults over the age of 65 experiences a fall each year.
1 in 3.
I look at my own parents, I look at my aunts and uncles, and I do the math. It is chilling.
It is the kind of number that makes you stop and really take stock. But what's interesting about that reaction, that fear, is how we culturally process it. When we hear fall, we usually think accident. We think, oh, mom tripped on the rug or dad slipped on the ice. We frame it as a random event, bad luck, or maybe just clumsiness.
Right. I'm just getting clumsy. Yep. Or I'm getting old and fragile. We treat it like it's a character flaw or just the natural decay of the body.
Precisely. We have this narrative that falling is just an oops moment. But the deep dive we're doing today, based on Dr. Hartwell's nutritional protocol, completely flips that narrative on its head.
This is the part that got me.
She argues that these falls are not accidents, they are signals.
That is the hook for me. The idea that a fall is a signal, not just bad luck.
It's a biological distress flare. Dr. Hartwell's core thesis is that we aren't seeing laziness or clumsiness, we are seeing a system failure.
A system failure.
Specifically, she points out that the legs, the nerves, and the circulatory system are literally running out of specific types of fuel.
So it's not that you stopped walking because you didn't feel like it, it's that your body physically couldn't afford the energy expenditure.
That is the core theme we need to unpack, the underfueled system. It shifts the blame, doesn't it?
It really does.
It takes it away from a moral failing like, I should exercise more, and moves it into mechanics. If your car stops running on the highway, you don't call the car lazy.
No, you check the gas tank.
You check the gas tank, you check the spark plugs, you check the oil. Dr. Hartwell is saying we need to do the exact same thing for our legs.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to analyze Dr. Hartwell's specific nutritional protocol for leg strength and fall prevention. And we're not just talking about eating healthy in a general eat your veggies sense.
No, this is much more targeted.
We are getting very specific. We're looking at the connection between leg function, the actual mechanics of lifting your foot, and specific vitamins and nutrients.
We've identified what Dr. Hartwell calls the Big Six. These are 6 specific food categories that act as biological tools.
Biological tools, I like that.
And what I love about this approach is that it is functional. We are using food to restore walking confidence, to rebuild the machinery that keeps us upright. This is actionable biology.
Before we even get to the grocery list, which is fascinating, by the way, there's some surprises in there, we need to understand the context. Why does this happen?
Yeah, the why is critical.
Why does someone who was walking fine at 50 suddenly feel like they're dragging their feet at 65? Dr. Hartwell talks about a quiet shift in physiology.
This is the part that really fascinated me because it explains everything. You see, you can eat the exact same diet at 65 that you ate at 40, but your body is no longer getting the same result from it.
That feels incredibly unfair.
It is a little unfair, but it's biology. As we enter our 40s, and especially our 50s, our stomach acid production starts to decline. It's a condition called hypochlorhydria, and it is very, very common.
Wait, low stomach acid? Because I feel like everyone I know over 50 is popping antacids. They feel like they have too much acid.
That is the great irony. And it's a huge misconception. Often, the reflux people feel is caused by pressure issues from the lower esophageal sphincter or mechanics, not actual acid volume.
Oh, okay.
But functionally, inside the stomach, the pH is rising. It is becoming less acidic. Now, stomach acid isn't just there to give you heartburn. It's a solvent.
A solvent.
It's the industrial cleaner that breaks down the food matrix so your body can actually access the nutrients locked inside.
So if the solvent is weak, the breakdown is inefficient.
Precisely. You might be eating a steak, you chew it, you swallow it, but if you don't have enough acid to break down that tough protein structure, you aren't releasing the amino acids. You aren't unlocking the vitamin B12 that is bound to the protein.
So the food just passes through.
Largely unabsorbed, it passes through you, and all those amazing nutrients go to waste.
So you are eating but you are starving at a cellular level.
Exactly. It is a supply chain issue internally. And when the body realizes it has fewer resources coming in, less protein, less iron, less B12, it has to make budget cuts.
Budget cuts. I like that analogy.
Think of the body like a business during a recession. Revenue is down. You have to keep the lights on in the headquarters. That's your heart, your lungs, your brain.
Essentials.
Those are non-negotiable. But the satellite offices, the marketing department, you start cutting funding there.
And in this analogy, the legs are the marketing department.
Walking fast is a luxury. Walking with a long, confident stride requires excess energy. Having snappy, cat-like reflexes requires expensive neural maintenance. The body views those as optional compared to keeping your heart beating.
So it cuts the budget to the legs.
It cuts the budget.
That makes so much sense. It's the fuel gauge analogy. When the light comes on in your car, you turn off the AC, you drive slower, you stop accelerating aggressively to pass people.
You go into conservation mode.
Exactly.
And that conservation mode manifests as what Dr. Hartwell calls the pre-fall signs. These are the subtle symptoms that show up way before the actual fall happens.
This is the stuff we need to pay attention to.
Yes. And if you are listening, I want you to mentally check these off. Or check them off for your parents.
Yeah, let's go through these, because she mentions things that I think we just brush off as getting old, but she sees them as flashing red lights.
The first one is a shorter stride. You stop taking big, confident steps. It becomes more of a shuffle.
Okay.
You are keeping your center of gravity low and your feet close to the ground because it costs less energy.
Then there is the hesitation at curbs. You know, you're standing there, you see the drop, and there's just that split-second delay.
That delay is your brain calculating, do we have the power to do this safely?
Wow.
That hesitation is a massive red flag. It shows a lack of trust between the brain and the legs. Then there is the grocery cart grip. You see this all the time at the supermarket.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Someone leaning heavily on the cart, knuckles white, even if the cart is basically empty.
They aren't pushing the cart is holding them up.
Exactly. It's a proprioceptive crutch. They are using the cart to feel where they are in space. And the last one she mentioned, which I found really poignant, is scanning the room.
I do this sometimes when I'm tired, actually. You walk into a room, a party, a restaurant, and immediately, before you look at the people or the decor, you are looking for a chair.
You're looking for a landing zone. You need to know where you can sit immediately. That is the brain saying, I don't trust these legs to hold me up for long.
And these aren't just quirks.
They are symptoms of a system running on fumes.
Okay, so we have established the problem. The tank is low, the body is cutting corners, and the legs are the first thing to get their budget slashed. Now let's fix it.
Let's fill the tank.
Let's fill the tank. We are moving into Section 1 of the protocol, the oxygen supply.
This is the foundation. If you don't have oxygen reaching the muscles, nothing else matters. You can have the strongest legs in the world, but if they can't breathe, they won't work.
And the key nutrients here, according to Dr. Hartwell, are iron and vitamin C. She uses this great analogy. The seats on the bus. Can you break that down for us?
It's a perfect visual for how oxygen transport works. So we breathe in air, that's the easy part, but that oxygen has to get from your lungs down to your calf muscles to make them contract.
Right.
It doesn't just teleport, it needs a vehicle. That vehicle is your red blood cells.
Okay, so the red blood cell is the bus.
Right. But inside that bus, you have seats. Those seats are made of hemoglobin. And the core structural component of hemoglobin is iron.
So iron is literally the chair that the oxygen molecule sits on.
It is the seat on the bus.
So if you are low on iron,
You have fewer seats on the bus. You might be breathing just fine, taking in plenty of air, filling the station. But if the bus only has 10 seats instead of 50, most of that oxygen gets left behind in the lungs.
it never reaches the legs.
It never gets to its destination.
And the result is that feeling of huffing and puffing, even when you aren't doing anything that strenuous.
Exactly. Or needing to stop and rest halfway between the car and the front door. It's not necessarily that your muscles are weak structurally, it's that they are suffocating.
They're gasping for air.
They are gasping for air because the delivery system, the iron, isn't there. It is metabolic fatigue.
Now, here is where it gets tricky, and Dr. Hartwell points this out specifically. A lot of seniors go to the doctor, get their blood work done, and the doctor says, you're fine, everything is normal.
Yes, the normal trap.
But they still feel exhausted. Why is that?
This is a critical distinction that Dr. Hartwell emphasizes. Traditional medicine, generally speaking, looks for pathology. It looks for disease.
Okay.
So when they test your iron, they are checking to see, do you have clinical anemia? Are you in a crisis? If the answer is no, you are marked as normal.
But not dying is very different from walking briskly through the mall.
Exactly. There is a massive gap between clinical deficiency and optimal function. You can be at the very bottom of the normal range enough to keep your heart beating, but not enough to support vigorous activity.
That's a huge insight.
Dr. Hartwell cites a study where they took seniors who were technically normal, but on the lower end of the iron spectrum. They increased their iron to healthier, more optimal levels. They didn't add exercise. They didn't change anything else.
So what happened?
Their walking improved significantly. Their 6-minute walking distance increased.
Just from the iron.
Just by adding more seats to the bus?
That is wild. It's purely mechanical. Yeah. So how do we get more seats? What is on the menu?
The gold standard, biologically speaking, is heme iron. That is iron that comes from animal sources.
Like red meat.
Lean red meat, and yes, liver. Liver is the superhero here. It is the most absorbable form of iron on the planet.
I know, liver is a polarizing topic. I can hear some listeners groaning. But what if you are plant-based? Or you just really, really hate liver?
You absolutely have options. Lentils, spinach, beans, tofu, these are great sources. However, and this is a huge however, plant iron is chemically different.
Okay.
It is called non-heme iron. It is harder for the body to grab onto. It tends to slip right through the digestive tract.
This brings us to the helper nutrient. Dr. Hartwell emphasized that eating spinach alone isn't enough.
No, it's not. If you just eat a bowl of plain lentils, you are absorbing a very small fraction of that iron. You need a catalyst. You need chemistry. That catalyst is vitamin C.
So this is the pairing rule. You have to have them together.
Right. The acid in vitamin C chemically transforms the non-heme iron into a form that your gut can actually absorb. It unlocks the door.
So you're telling me if I eat a big spinach salad, but there's no citrus or anything on it, I'm wasting my time?
You're not getting the iron benefit you think you are. You need that lemon juice in the vinaigrette. You need those bell peppers chopped up in the salad.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does that look like on a plate?
If you are having a spinach salad, you need a citrus vinaigrette. If you are having bean soup, maybe have some bell peppers on the side or have an orange for dessert. Even a glass of orange juice with your oatmeal.
You must have that vitamin C present at the same time as the iron.
At the same time. It's a chemical reaction happening in your gut.
Dr. Hartwell's actionable tip here was really specific. 2 to 3 iron-rich meals a week. We aren't talking about changing your entire life every day.
It's a manageable goal. Just 2 or 3 times a week. Focus on that blood-building meal. Restore the foundation.
Okay, so we have oxygen. The muscles can breathe. But what if the signal to move never gets there? That brings us to section 2, the wiring system.
This is where we shift from the fuel to the communication network. Because walking isn't just muscle power, it is high-speed coordination.
It's a brain thing.
It's a brain-to-toe connection. And the star of this show is vitamin B12.
The electrician of the body.
That's what I call it. B12 is the electrician.
I love that image.
Yeah.
So let's trace the signal. How does a step actually happen?
Okay, so you decide to take a step. That thought starts in the brain. It is an electrical impulse. That impulse has to travel down your spinal cord, branch out into the nerves of your leg,
all the way down,
and travel all the way to the tip of your big toe to tell it to lift up so you don't trip over the rug.
That is a long journey for a tiny signal.
It is a marathon. And that signal travels along nerves. Think of a nerve like a copper wire in your house.
Okay.
For electricity to move efficiently, the wire needs insulation. If the wire is bare, the signal sparks, or it leaks out, or it slows down.
And B12 builds the insulation.
Exactly. The insulation is called myelin. It is a fatty sheath that wraps around the nerve. B12 is the primary nutrient required to build and repair myelin.
So if we don't have enough B12...
The myelin phrase, it gets thin. And just like a frayed charging cable for your phone, the connection gets unreliable.
You have to wiggle it to get it to work.
Exactly. And the signal gets staticky.
Dr. Hartwell lists some very specific symptoms for this frayed wire situation. And I think these are the ones that scare people the most because they feel like neurological decline.
They do. It feels like your body is betraying you. She mentions heavy legs, that feeling like your legs are made of lead or concrete.
Right.
That is a nerve signal issue.
And drop foot, I've heard of that.
Drop foot is the classic fall risk. You send the signal to lift your foot high enough to clear the threshold. Your brain says, lift 3 inches. But because the wire is frayed, the signal arrives weak, and the foot only lifts 1 inch.
And you catch your toe.
You trip. And the scary part is, you don't know why. You think, but I lifted my foot. And mentally, you did, but the mechanics failed.
There is also this delay. You decide to move, but there is a microsecond lag before the leg actually obeys.
That latency is dangerous. If you start to lose your balance, you need an instant correction. If there is a lag, by the time your leg reacts, you are already on the ground.
And she mentioned unsteadiness in dim light. That was fascinating to me. Why does the lighting matter for your legs?
This is all about proprioception. It's a great word.
The sixth sense.
We balance using 3 systems: our eyes, our inner ear, and the nerves in our feet that feel the ground. If your foot nerves are frayed from low B12, you aren't getting good data from the floor.
You can't feel where you are.
Right. So you become almost 100% dependent on your vision to balance.
So if the lights go down,
You lose your primary reference point. You feel like you are floating in space, you get dizzy, and you fall.
that is profound. It's about trusting your legs again.
Oh,
So we need to rebuild the myelin, we need B12, and Dr. Hartwell dropped a massive surprise here regarding the best source. I did not see this coming.
I know. I think everyone expects salmon or steak, but the superfood solution is canned clams.
Canned clams, like from the pasta aisle,
Yeah.
the little tin cans.
They are the absolute king of B12 density. They have the highest concentration of almost any food on the planet. They blow beef and chicken out of the water.
That is wild, and they are cheap.
They are shelf-stable, they are relatively cheap, and they are pre-cooked. You can toss them in a red sauce for pasta, put them in a chowder. It's incredibly easy.
But if you really can't do clams, I know texture is a thing for people. She also suggests salmon, sardines, and eggs.
Yes. But here's the key takeaway about B12. Food beats supplements in this specific context because of the cofactors.
What do you mean?
Food comes packaged with other proteins and lipids that help the body utilize the B12. And remember the digestion issue.
Right, the low stomach acid.
B12 is very hard to extract from food. It takes a lot of stomach acid. So Dr. Hartwell recommends eating your B12 sources earlier in the day, breakfast or lunch.
Why early?
Digestion is more robust when you are active. If you eat a huge steak at 8 p.m. and then go to sit on the couch or go to bed, your digestion slows down. That B12 might just sit there unprocessed.
So you give your body the full waking day to extract that vitamin.
Exactly. Maximize your chances of absorption.
Okay, so we have oxygen, iron, we have wiring B12. Now we need to clear the roads. Section 3 is the highway, and we are talking about nitrate-rich vegetables.
This is all about circulation, but specifically blood flow velocity. How fast can we get the good stuff to the muscles?
Dr. Hartwell brings up this concept of opening the roads. What exactly is happening in the vessels as we age?
So over time, blood vessels tend to get a little stiffer, a little narrower. Think of a 4-lane highway gradually turning into a 2-lane country road.
Traffic jams.
Exactly. Traffic jams. In your legs, this traffic jam feels like tightness or burning or cramping when you walk.
I think a lot of people assume that burning is a good thing, like feel the burn in the gym.
In the gym, when you are pushing for a record, maybe. But if you are just walking to the mailbox and your calves are burning, that is not a workout. That is ischemia.
Ischemia.
That is your muscles screaming for oxygen that they can't get because the road is too narrow.
Enter nitrates.
Nitrates are compounds found in certain vegetables. When you eat them, your body converts them into a gas called nitric oxide. This is a miracle molecule for seniors.
What does nitric oxide do?
It is a vasodilator. It tells the smooth muscles wrapped around your arteries to relax. When they relax, the tube gets wider. Suddenly, the 2-lane road becomes 4 lanes again.
So the resistance drops.
Resistance drops, blood flows freely, and oxygen floods into the muscle. The burn disappears because the fuel line is open.
And there was a specific study about beet juice here that was pretty amazing.
The beet juice phenomenon. They took seniors and gave them a shot of concentrated beet juice. Then they had them walk. These participants increased their walking time before exhaustion significantly.
Wow.
They could go further, and they felt less fatigue.
And the important thing is, this isn't a stimulant, right? It's not like caffeine. It's not going to make you jittery.
No, not at all. It is purely mechanical. It is plumbing. It opens the pipes.
And she mentioned this has a surprisingly fast turnaround time.
That's the cool part. Iron takes weeks to build up your red blood cells. B12 takes time to repair the nerves. Nitrates, you can feel the effect in about an hour.
An hour.
Yeah, it creates this gentle lightness in the legs.
So this is a tool you can use on demand. If you know you have a big day of walking ahead, maybe a trip to the zoo with the grandkids, or a long trek through an airport, you can prep for it.
Exactly. Have a beet juice. Have a big arugula salad. You are prepping the engine before the race.
So what are the top sources again?
Beets are #1 roasted or juiced. Arugula is actually incredibly high in nitrates, surprisingly so.
Arugula, okay.
And then spinach, romaine lettuce, celery. Think green and crunchy or red and rooty.
I love that. It's so actionable. Eat this, walk better in an hour. Okay, let's move to the structure itself. Section 4, the engine. We are talking about complete protein.
This is where we have to bust another massive myth, the use it or lose it myth.
We hear that all the time. You stopped moving, so your muscles shrank.
It is partially true, but Dr. Hartwell adds a critical nuance. She says muscles don't just shrink because you stopped moving. They shrink because the repair signal is too weak.
The repair signal, what is that?
It's a chemical trigger. When you are 20 years old, you can look at a weight and your muscles grow. Your body is swimming in hormones that say build, grow.
Right.
But after age 60, the body becomes resistant to that signal. It is called anabolic resistance.
So the body goes deaf to the signal.
It gets hard of hearing. You need a much, much louder shout to tell the body to build muscle. You can't just whisper anymore.
And that shout comes from protein.
Specifically, an amino acid called leucine. Leucine is the switch. It is the key that turns the engine on. If you don't get enough leucine in one go, the switch stays off.
And if the switch is off,
no matter how much you walk, your muscles won't rebuild.
This leads to the tea and toast problem. I feel like this is such a classic image of senior dining.
It really is. It's a tragedy of convenience. You see it all the time. Toast and tea for breakfast, maybe a little soup and crackers for lunch.
It's light, it's easy.
It is light, it is easy on the stomach. But nutritionally, it is a disaster for muscle mass.
Because there isn't enough protein in toast to flip the leucine switch.
Exactly. You might be getting calories, but you aren't getting the signal. So the body says, well, no repair orders today, and the muscle fibers atrophy.
And that leads to instability.
And that difficulty standing from a chair. You know that move where you have to rock back and forth 3 times to get momentum?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
That is a lack of engine power. That is a failure of the protein signal.
So what is the prescription? It's about dosage, right? It's not just about eating protein.
Timing and dosage. You can't just look at your total protein for the day. You have to look at the per meal amount. Dr. Hartwell says the magic number is 25 to 30 grams of protein in a single sitting.
Why in a single sitting? Why can't I just snack on it all day?
Because of the resistance. You need a sudden surge of leucine to break through the resistance and flip the switch. If you graze 5 grams here, 10 grams there, you never reach the threshold.
So it's not cumulative.
It's not. It's like trying to knock down a door. 100 little taps won't do it. You need one big kick.
Wow. That changes everything about snacking. So what does 30 grams look like?
It's a scoop of whey protein, which is very high in leucine. It's a distinct serving of fish, a chicken breast, or eggs. Probably 3 to 4 eggs to be safe.
And for the plant-based listeners?
You have to be a little more strategic. You need to combine sources to get a complete protein.
Right, like beans and rice?
Beans and rice together, lentils and whole grains. You need to mix them to get the full amino acid profile. And you probably need to eat a larger volume to hit that 30-gram mark.
Okay, so we are fueling the engine, wiring the signals, opening the roads, and rebuilding the structure.
Yes.
But there is still friction.
Ah, yes. The internal drab.
Section 5, friction and lubrication. We are talking spices and omega-3s.
This is about how it feels to move. You can have strong muscles, but if your joints are rusty and inflamed, you are going to want to walk. You are going to protect yourself.
Dr. Hartwell describes inflammation as internal friction. It makes movement cost more energy.
Think about driving a car with the parking brake slightly on. You can drive, right? But you have to push the gas harder, the engine works harder, and you run out of fuel faster.
And you wear everything out fast.
And you wear everything out. Chronic inflammation is that parking brake.
And the symptoms aren't always sharp pain, right? It's not always ow my knee.
No, it's often just stiffness, heaviness, a dull ache, that feeling of, I just don't want to get up. That is systemic inflammation.
So how do we release the parking brake?
We go to the spice rack, 2 spices specifically, turmeric and ginger. These are potent anti-inflammatories.
But there is a catch with turmeric, a biochemical lock-in key. This part blew my mind.
Yes, this is crucial. If you just eat plain turmeric, like you sprinkle it on your food, your body absorbs almost none of it.
Really?
It is very hard to process. Your liver filters it out instantly.
So it's useless on its own?
Basically. But if you add black pepper.
Just regular table pepper?
Regular black pepper. It contains a compound called piperine. Papain shuts down the liver pathway that flushes out the curcumin from the turmeric.
It holds the door open.
It holds the door open.
Yeah.
And it allows your blood levels of curcumin to skyrocket by like 2,000%.
2,000%. That is insane. Just a sprinkle of pepper makes it that much more effective.
It is the difference between a tasty spice and a medicinal compound. So if you are making a golden milk or a curry or taking a supplement, you must have pepper involved.
And the result is less guarding.
Right. Guarding is when you walk stiffly to avoid potential pain. When the inflammation drops, you loosen up. Your stride lengthens naturally because you aren't afraid of the ouch.
Now let's talk about the lubricant. Omega-3s.
These are dual function wonders. First, yes, they lubricate. They physically help reduce friction in the joints, knees, ankles. But Dr. Hartwell highlighted a second function that is just amazing. Proprioception.
That word again, the sixth sense of knowing where your feet are.
Yes. We talked about how B12 builds the wire, the myelin. Well, omega-3s build the cell wall of the nerve itself.
The casing.
The casing. Omega-3s make the cell wall fluid and flexible. A flexible cell wall can transmit signals much faster than a stiff one.
Yeah, really?
So higher omega-3s mean faster signals regarding balance.
So eating fish actually helps you know where your feet are.
Literally. It sharpens the signal of, hey, the ground is uneven here. It improves your reaction time.
Sources for that.
Fatty fish. The colder the water, the better. Salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines. The acronym is SCNSH.
SANASH. I'll remember that. And there is a synergy here too. Omega-3s enhance the effect of protein.
Yes, they make the muscle more sensitive to that leucine signal we talked about. So if you have a piece of salmon, you are getting the protein to build the engine and the omega-3s to lubricate it and sharpen the sensors.
It's the perfect walking food.
It truly is.
We are down to the final component, section 6, the one we always forget until it's too late, hydration and electrolytes.
The silent saboteur.
We know water is important. But specifically for seniors, why is this a fall risk?
Because the thirst mechanism fades with age. This is a physiological fact. You literally do not feel thirsty until you are already significantly dehydrated.
So you think you're fine, but your tank is empty.
And mild dehydration causes a drop in blood volume. When blood volume drops, you get orthostatic hypotension.
That's the head rush when you stand up.
That's when you stand up. And the room spins. That dizziness is a major cause of falls.
And then there's the night cramp.
Oh, the dreaded Charlie horse. You are sleeping, and suddenly your calf locks up like a rock. That is usually an electrolyte imbalance, specifically magnesium, potassium, or sodium.
The electrical signal gets stuck.
It gets stuck in the on position.
Dr. Hartwell had a very specific fix for this, a walker's snack.
She did. Small, regular water intake is key. Don't chug a gallon at once. But the tip I loved was a handful of salted nuts after a 30-minute walk.
Why salted nut?
It's a trifecta. You get the sodium from the salt to replace what you sweat out, even if you didn't feel like you were sweating. You get magnesium from the nuts, like almonds or cashews. And the protein and fat help hold the fluid in your system so you stay hydrated through the night.
So that simple snack can prevent the cramp later that night.
It can. It stabilizes the electrical environment of the muscle.
Simple. Actionable. I love it.
It really is.
Okay, let's zoom out. We have covered a lot of ground, pun intended. We have built a walking system.
Let's recap the machine we just built. We have the fuel, that's the iron, bringing oxygen.
We have the wiring, the B12, carrying the signals.
We have the highways, which are the nitrates, opening the roads.
The engine, that's the protein, providing the power.
The oil and lubricant, the spices and omega-3s, reducing friction and sharpening sensors.
And we have the coolant, hydration, and electrolytes, keeping it all fluid.
It's a complete system.
When you look at it that way, it's not magic. It's engineering. And what's great is that none of this requires a prescription pad.
No exotic drugs, no expensive powders from the internet. We are talking about canned clams, spinach, beets, eggs, turmeric, nuts. This is the grocery store.
But it can be overwhelming to hear all 6 at once. I can imagine a listener thinking, I have to change everything. Dr. Hartwell advises the start small strategy.
I thought, really, do not go home and try to overhaul your entire diet by tomorrow morning. You will fail and you will get frustrated.
So just pick one thing.
Pick one thing. Maybe this week you just decide, I'm going to have that beet juice before my walk. That's it. See how it feels.
Or just swap the toast for eggs.
Or just swap the toast for eggs. That's a huge win.
It's about the psychological shift as much as the biological one.
It is. It is about teaching your body a new message. The message isn't, we are winding down. The message is, we are not finished yet. We are still building, here are the bricks.
I love that. We are not finished yet.
And honestly, when you start to feel the difference, when you feel that lightness in your legs from the nitrates or that steadiness from the protein, it becomes self-reinforcing. You want to do more because you can do more.
It is a positive feedback loop instead of a negative one.
Exactly.
So, here's where we leave you today. A final thought to chew on. We often treat aging as this slow, inevitable fade. We accept frailty as a destiny.
We do.
But listening to this, I have to ask, what if a significant portion of that so-called frailty is just a long-term nutritional deficit?
It's a powerful question.
If you could reclaim 20% of your walking speed just by eating clams and spinach, what else is your body capable of that you have written off as just aging? What other symptoms are actually just signals that you are missing a specific tool?
I think the answer is a lot more than we think.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go check your pantry, maybe grab some beets, and we will see you on the next one.
Keep walking.